Welcome to Poor Little Room.
Welcome to my little room. Welcome to my little room. Welcome.
Welcome to Poor Little Room. Today I'm going to be reviewing two Bluetooth active noise cancelling headphones in the £150 price range. Now they are the Street Wolf M32, the Street Wolf M9, and I will be comparing these to the headphones from the same company, also active noise cancelling headphones, the Studio Wolf M6, which I've actually owned for nearly 2 years now, and they have been my go-to noise cancelling headphone, which I've very much enjoyed using. Now there are a few other headphones in the same price category which I'm going to compare these to. I'm going to be doing a comparison with the Kiwi Ears Ardor, yes I think that's how I pronounce it, which is also a active noise cancelling Bluetooth headphone. This is actually more affordable. This comes around about 99 UK pounds versus the £149 of the M32s and M9s. I will explain why I believe the M32s and the M9s are a better buy than these. So let's talk about the packaging. My Studio Wolf M6 came in this very nice carry case. It's got a handy carrier at the back here for plug extensions, cables, that kind of thing. It's a very solid, sturdy box. It's looking like new after 2 years of heavy use. It comes with this loop, and you'll find that the headphones are very nicely protected inside. See, there's a little splitter here and a little bit more of a space for cable in there. And the headphones themselves, they have been very sturdy. One thing which I must say I'm very impressed with is the consistency. I've been using these every single week for nearly 2 years, and although this is faux leather, so it's pleather, there's no splits, there's no damage, and the padding is still doing a good job. The pads, they still have a consistent seal and they've not crushed, so the foam inside is memory foam. It's not like remained squashed, and there are no splits in the pads after all this time, all this use. The hinges have got a little bit loose, which is expected, and the clamp force has reduced over time. But I thought I'd straight out talk about that, because that's the reason I reached out to Wolf Acoustic, was because I was very much enjoying the headphones that I'd owned already. I thought, what other products do they do? So let's look at the next one. Now you'll notice both the M32 and the M9 come in this simpler carry case. So it's a very nice grey cloth. It's almost like, a little bit like denim. It's very nice, but it's a much more simple affair. There's no carry handle, just a simple zip. It's a little bit more squashy, but it's more compact. So this will, even though it takes up roughly the same size that way, it's slightly thinner this way, and it might be a little bit more handy to put in your rucksack. Now, opening this up, these are the M32s, and you see they're held in very nicely with an elastic there, just to protect them, and these come with a USB-C charging cable and also a 3.5 to 3.5 jack, so they are wireable. You can actually plug them into an amp or into your phone if you've run out of power, which is, I think, a very nice feature indeed. So if you, on the rare occasion you do run out of battery power, because these do actually have a substantial battery life, then you can continue to use them if you use the cable. Now these sit flat, and then they just do that, and then the headband is adjustable like this. It's just a friction. There's no clicks, there aren't any markings on here, but I must add this is a solid chrome, solid metal component here, which is a very nice feature. Bit of swivel here, so they can go from flat, so you can wear them like this, which is very nice, to there. And then there's a little bit of pivot, you can see, not a lot of pivot, a little bit of pivot. See, this is actually I'd say medium density pad. It's perfectly adequate, and it goes all the way around here, so there's a nice contact patch on your head when you wear these. Very comfortable indeed. Pads are very soft. They are the same plushness. Actually, I would say that the foam is very slightly more dense than on the Studio Wolf M6. Very soft, and I have no doubts that this will be the same material and hopefully have the same level of durability as on the Studio Wolves. Well, you'd hope so. It feels and looks like the same material. Now, one thing, a slight drawback, is that these don't fold down anymore. So, because of this lovely feature here, because this is real metal, that's just one of those things. You can't fold these in on themselves. But as you can see, in the box they come with, they don't take up a very large amount of space. So they're still handy. They're still compact, and this is not a large size. There's no rucksack this won't fit in. Additionally, you'll notice the pads are not very deep, and that the overall form factor is very compact. If you look at them side by side with the Studio Wolves, you'll notice that the Studio Wolves have a 3 centimeter pad, whilst these have a 25 millimeter pad, so it's not as deep. And you'll notice the opening, there's more depth to the pad of the Studio Wolves, whilst the M32 actually has quite a shallow pad in here, although this does have foam inside, so none of your ear is making contact with anything harsh, any harsh materials. It's all very, very soft, which is very, very nice. And I must say, the feel is very solid, very, very solid. These do not feel like a, like a budget headphone. They feel like a premium headphone in the finish. Before I go to talk about the M9s, I'm just going to very quickly show you the layout of the buttons. So one thing I quite like about both of these headphones is the active noise cancelling button is on a different side to the power and the volume buttons, which is very handy. And the same functions are repeated with both headphones. So you press once to turn on noise cancelling, or once to then do voice through, and then once more to turn off noise cancelling. Now, voice through is a nice feature. It means that the headphone, because it's got numerous microphones which are listening to the external environment, if someone talks to you who's sat next to you, then it will actually pick that up and it will bring that through the music mix. So if you're playing music and you have voice through as an option, then that person's voice will come through the mix, so you'll be able to hear what they're saying. And it works well. I've worn these on a tube train, and it works well listening to announcements as well. So as long as there's not loads of people talking around you all at the same time, and it's rare on a tube train anyway, it's a very handy feature. Now, going on to the, before I talk about the actual functionality of these a bit more, let's talk about the M9s. So these come in an identical case. This is definitely, you know, you're not paying excessive amounts for an elaborate box, you're paying for a high quality headphone. So as you can see, these are held in the same way, very neatly done. They come with the same cables, the USB-C and the audio 3.5 to 3.5. Now, these feel very nice. One thing I immediately noticed when I took these out of the box is they are aimed at a different, I would say they just feel very different to the M32s. The M32s, solid build and convenient, okay? So they are good looking, they are solid and very functionally very, very good. The M9s, for me, they just have a few features which I prefer. Now, for a start, if you look at the headband, although it doesn't actually have padding all the way around, it's got padding here, which is adequate. You'll notice these actually have an adjustable band with, can you hear the clicks? And it has measured increments. So if you can see on here, it tells you how many increments. So when I put these on my head, I actually have 2 clicks. So I go 1, 2, and so you can see the number 2 on there. This is a real metal band there. 1, 2. However, there's an additional feature with the M9s. They are foldable this way. So you can do this, and then this is very handy if you don't have a bag which is big enough for the full carry case. You can then fit these in a very, very compact space indeed. Not in trouser pockets, but you know, very handy indeed. The whole thing feels premium. You'll notice there are metal hinges. Everything on Wolf headphones feels a little bit more sturdy than the competition that I've found. So I would actually compare these to the durability or the build quality of good Sony headphones or Bose Quiet Comfort, that level. So that's a very nice click, can you hear that? Very satisfying. Everything just feels very, very well engineered. Now, you'll see that they move 90 degrees that way. The amount of pivot is more generous than on the M32s, and that's an attribute to the yoke design. So it's a completely different yoke design. Now, these are very generous sized. I would say the M32s, where have I put them? Here we go. So the M32s are designed for slightly smaller head, but they can be adjusted all the way. So you'll notice they adjust for quite a large head, like that. Okay, but they can go very, very small. So if I have them completely all the way down, that's too small for me. So I would say if someone has a very small head, or even if someone, or maybe a teenager, very good option. Now the M9s, the smallest, you know, when they're smallest, I would say it fits me well. There's a little bit of pressure on top, and they're a little bit too high here. So for me, I just like them to have 2 clicks. just like this. So there's a slight difference. Ergonomically, I think these are going to be better for people with bigger heads. You can still wear these, as I say, if you have a large head, but these are, they start out from a slightly larger form factor. I really like this. This is very, very accurate. Now, they have the same feel of pad, so just as soft and plush. They also have that padding inside. These are actually similar depth to the 32s. However, there's slightly, very slightly more space width-wise. You'll notice that these are a pear shape, so there's more width this way. So if I compare the two pads, there's more room inside for your ear on the M9s. So again, I think these are designed for someone with slightly larger head, larger ears. They're still not as deep. They're not 30mm deep like the Studio M6, but they're very soft, very comfortable. The shaping of the pad as well, you might note that there's a chamfer to the inside of the pad, inner edge of the pad here, and that's for sound staging. And what becomes apparent when you listen to these and listen to these, they are tuned very differently, which is a pleasant surprise. So they're not just a different form factor, they are a different tuning, different headphone entirely. They have the same guts, so they all share, these two share the same 50mm, so very large mylar driver, very large driver. And obviously the same functionality with the USB-C cable and the 3.5mm jack. Slight difference in the layout of the buttons. The M9s, you still have the ANC on the other, on its own part of the headphone, which is very handy. However, to turn these on, you've actually got the volume buttons either side of the power button. So you just need to feel in between, and the one with the knobbles on it, and that's the power button, and it's also the pairing button on these. So it's just slightly different functionality there. Okay, so I'm just going to do a sound demo of the headphones, the functions. So this is what the M32s sound like when they turn on.
Power on.
And when I turn on the active noise cancelling, this is what that sounds like.
ANC activated.
If you already have your device's Bluetooth on, then they will automatically connect. It will say connected, and it will not say pairing mode. It will just say ANC on. Now, when you press the NC button for a second time, this is what you will hear.
Voice through activated.
And that is the voice through, which is very useful, as I said. You can use it in an office, so if you're in an office you don't want to be interrupted by external sounds, but let's say you have a lot of there might be an air conditioning unit or something like that in your office, but you want to be able to hear the person next to you if they talk to you, then that is a very handy feature. And then when I press the button for a third time,
voice through off.
There you go. So it's actually 3 press options. The first press is to turn noise cancelling on. Second press to do voice through, which is also noise cancelling, but it's a dynamic version of that. And then the third press turns off both. Okay. Now if I turn off the headphones, this is what that sounds like.
Power off.
Very nice. So back to the build of these. This is a metal plate. Now initially when I picked these up I thought very sturdy feel, very nice premium feel, and I thought this would be plastic because This is very sturdy, very solid, but what you can feel with plastics is a warmth to the touch. This is very sturdy, so very solid. That's why, as I will point out later on, there's very good bass response, very clean bass with these, thanks to the solid build. But with the M9s, you actually have a metal plate here. This is an aluminium, a machined aluminium plate. The reason I know that is because this is cold to the touch. So even though it sounds, actually no, you can hear that it's got a different sound to it. Now that is going to be helping with the tuning, so these do sound different. The venting is in different locations, so now I'm not sure which of these are microphones. I think that the venting is probably going to be coming through from behind the hinge and possibly from the side, whilst the microphone for the voice through is probably going to be here. On these, yes, this is probably the microphone for the voice through, but there's a larger vent. Can you see there's a larger vent in here? So what that means is you have a choice. For the same price, you have the same level of control in the bass, but you have a different tuning with regards to where the vocals are in the mix and where the various levels of treble information are going to be impactful. Now I'm going to show you some graphs on my mini DSP ears. Now looking at these diagrams, as you can see here, I have separate diagrams for Bluetooth noise cancellation mode, and then I've got separate graphs for when the headphones are plugged in with their audio jack to my amp. Now let's have a look at the M32s. There's a good amount of sub-bass information, and the mid-bass is present also. However, it's got a very gentle leading from the sub-bass into the mid-bass. So I would say that the sub-bass does not overpower the mid-bass. Now you'll notice on these headphones they are very vocal centric, so you can see that they do not have a dip in the mids, which means they are going to convey vocal heavy tracks very well. Now one advantage to these having a large driver, a 50mm mylar driver, in a very sturdy surround, so they're very heavily damped, is you're going to be able to have a lot of control of those bass tones, but also any tones in the vocals, so they are quite forwards in this headphone, are going to have a very smooth, rich tonality. This is an excellent headphone if you like your singer-songwriter music. It's an excellent headphone if you like your diva music, so if you like Mariah Carey, if you like, I like Tom Jones, so if you like Tom Jones, they're very strong vocally. There's nothing harsh in the vocal mix if it's a well-recorded track. One thing I would note is you can see a peak here. What that means is if you have music with sibilance in it, so if there's someone with quite a very sharp and sound to their voice, if there's a bit of a buzzing to the microphone, so sometimes if someone has their mouth on the microphone, there's a bit of vibration there, it will be picked up with these headphones, and it can sound a bit harsh. So just play around with your music. It means that some genres might sound a little bit harsh if it is a harsh mix already. What does help though is the fact that it has a lot of warmth in the bass area of these headphones, it is going to help offset that sharpness. Now, apart from that peak, I would say that these are toned down in the upper treble, but what is there in the upper treble is quite sweet. So tonality across the board is very sweet with these headphones. They have a very nice, I would say, it sounds like a cliche, but I would say a musicality to them, as long as you are aware of what is going to be peaking. Now, soundstage wise, let's say, so we're staying in the Bluetooth mode. As soon as you turn on the active noise cancelling mode with these headphones, there's a big difference. Now the soundstage actually comes inwards, so these are about average for compact noise cancelling headphones, Bluetooth headphones with the soundstage. You'll notice some sounds are just around your head, only I would say about a centimetre beyond your ears, if you imagine. There's not too much resonance issues at all when you have the noise cancelling turned off with the M32s. But it's a small environment. It's a very inviting, very warm, small environment with the vocalist ahead of the other instruments. But the the bass guitar player sometimes is really quite apparent. As soon as you turn on the noise cancelling with the M32s, you'll notice a hump in the bass, and what that does, it's going to bring the vocals back in the mix a little bit, and it's going to be smaller soundstage. So it's more inside your head, the music. However, there's a lot of richness to the tonality included. So if you're listening to jazz music, if you're listening to R&B, I prefer the sound with the noise cancelling off. If you're listening for pure pleasure of music, I'd recommend with these headphones the noise cancelling off, and then as soon as you're in a noisy environment where you need that noise cancelling, the active noise cancelling from just the fit of the headphones isn't adequate, turn on that noise cancelling. It is very effective, and then you can still enjoy your music. But to be honest, when it's a very noisy environment, you're not going to be able to hear the finer details anyway because of the environment, and you're going to hear that richness coming through. Okay, so there's those two alternatives. Now let's look at the M9s. You'll notice the M9s, there's less of a vocal emphasis. They have more of a mid-bass centric sound. But because the vocals are slightly further back in the mix compared to the M32s, it means some of the treble is going to be a bit sweeter sounding. So if you are into, I would say, music which is a little bit more complex, music which has a few more details in the mix, a few more different instruments in the mix, I'd say the M9s are slightly more able to deal with it than the M32s. They still have this lovely silkiness to the vocals. I would say the tonality to the vocals on the M9s, they're the same as on the M32s because they have the same driver. However, the damping is slightly different, the chamber of the headphone is different, the vocal is further back in the mix with the M9s, and it means that if you do have more classic rock music, and if you have music which is multiple instruments, like let's say orchestral music, the M9s are actually able to deal with it better. They can deal with more of a complicated list of instruments. Both of them are good, don't get me wrong. Both of them suffer from the same problem that all noise cancelling headphones have. When the noise cancelling button is turned on, you're going to have an emphasis on the mid-bass. It's going to be very strong, and as a result it will tend to drown out some of the depth and layering in the sound, but that's the same across the board. I have not found a noise cancelling headphone which doesn't have that issue. And as I said before, the same with the M9 as with the M32, and the same as with the Bose Quiet Comfort that I tried, and the same with the Sony noise cancelling headphones that I've tried. Across the board, when you have noise cancelling mode turned on, you're going to have more of a bass emphasis, and that's just the way it is. But what I really do want to point out is how nice the tonality is on these headphones. There's a really nice sweetness to the vocals. So here's a graph showing the M32s wired with the noise cancelling turned off. You'll notice they're quite similar. I would say they sound a little bit more harsh. They seem to be smoother in Bluetooth mode. The vocal sounds, you still have that lovely richness to the vocals, but instrumentally I would say the upper treble areas, and see this peak, it's slightly more brittle sounding when these are plugged in to an amp. Or plugged into your phone, let's say, even through a dongle. You can alter with EQ, so that is changeable. So bear that in mind. Even though I prefer the sound of these particular headphones in Bluetooth mode, you could play around with EQ, and then you can try to alter it to your tastes. Okay, so let's do a comparison with a budget headphone, noise cancelling headphone, Bluetooth cancelling headphone. This is the Kiwi Ears Ardour, and I think it's by Linsol. I think they're the same manufacturer as Harmonic Dyne headphones. I've got the Harmonic Dyne Athena headphones here, which are excellent sounding headphones, not Bluetooth. These are semi-open, fully wired, but the problem is the build quality has been an issue, unfortunately. I've actually started to lose sound in one of the drivers with these, and I've only had these for 6 months or something like that, not very long, unfortunately. So Linsol, I've owned a few headphones manufactured by these companies, and sometimes the build quality can be a bit questionable. One thing you get with the Kiwi Ears Ardour is this very nice box. I mean, it's a very premium experience. This comes out like this. Very nice box. On the box it says, actually it's in French. It says recyclable container, which is nice, and designed by Kiwi Ears, made in China. There you go. And it's RoHS compliant. Now what RoHS compliant means is that there are no toxic materials which are going to irritate you when they're on your head, and also when you recycle this box and these components. Anyway, so similar carry case as with the Wolf headphones. This is slightly harder. It's got a carry handle. It's got very nice, now you're thinking, oh wait a second, these only cost £100. And look, but there's a surprise. So lovely raised lettering here, saying Kiwi Ears, nice logo. The whole case experience is a surprise. You think, wow, they've spent a lot of money on this case, which I'm going to make a point in a minute. So very nice. So, you know, high quality headphones, simple case, high excellent quality carry case, And then when you have a look at the Kiwi ears themselves, they've got the same cables. They've got USB-C and 3.5mm connector. And you think, oh, they look really nice. You think, oh, look, they're nestled in there nicely. And oh, that feels nice. It feels like leather, but this is actually rubberized with the embossed. Oh, very nice, you know. It's got a little bit of shiny here, but the story changes as soon as you take it out of the case. As soon as you take this out of the case, this immediately collapses. You'll notice this whole pad feels like it's made of very cheap material. Can you see that moving? When I roll my finger across that band, this feels like it's made. Look, the metal band feels like it's going to actually pop out. Okay. The adjustments, they're okay. They're a bit vague, a little bit vague. It's going to be difficult trying to adjust this accurately. Okay. The whole thing, it just feels very, very cheap. Same kind of idea, different build entirely. This feels very, very nice. Whilst on the Kiwi ears, this feels cheap. You open this and there's this thin little plastic connector. That's not real metal that I'm aware of. Yeah, it's plastic. And the whole thing just feels like it is vulnerable, you know. Pads wise, although this is most of the space is within the cup of the headphones, so these are taller cups, a little bit. I think they're mimicking the Bose Quiet Comfort with that. There's a little bit of trim under here where the cable is recessed. There's a little bit of roughness to the moulding as well on the yokes. You won't find any roughness on the moulding here. Like with the Wolf headphones, you do have markings for the left and right on the actual cloth under the pad. The pads here, they are the, look at that. You'll notice the pads, this is very, very soft, but too soft, and it just stays squashed. So if you keep these in the box, I've only owned these a few days, and already that, can you see the pads deformed, and it's remained deformed, which is not good. The insulation from the outside world is not very good with these as well, because the whole thing is not creating a great seal on your ears, because it's slightly looser, and these pads very rapidly press down, so that is going to break the seal potentially between your cheek and the outside world. They make a squeaking sound when I press them. It's like a squeaky toy, which is weird. The Street Wolf M9s just feels solid. This is maintaining a seal, it's maintaining its structure, good seal, and maintaining comfort levels. And the oh, I've still got these turned on. The M32s, very comfortable, consistent seal. There's a bit of clamp force, but you want a bit of clamp force when you have noise cancelling headphones in order to maintain that seal. The Kiwi ears are Dur. These are brand new headphones, and they're already loose. Look at that. Look at that angle. That's, oh my gosh. Anyway, so let's talk about the sound of these. These actually have two drivers in each cup. It's a dual driver. They have a 40mm and a 10mm. So the 40mm is going to be there to handle most of the mid and lower bass tones, and then you've got effectively a tweeter in here. Separation wise, these do a better job than the Wolf headphones, but that's to be expected with there being two drivers. Tonality wise, I prefer the Wolf headphones. Vocals are richer in the M32s and M9s than with these. One thing these do well in is the separation of instruments. So if you're listening to an orchestral piece, if you're listening to a band which have multiple instruments, multiple vocalists, then these do well with that. There is some peakiness, and I would say that these have more of a problems with sibilance than the M9s or the M32s. These have less of a bleeding of the mid bass into the vocals when the noise cancelling is turned off than with these. However, the noise cancelling is less effective on these, because of the build issues. These, the bass, it's clear, however, when you play the music loud, it sounds brittle. And I think what's happening there is you're getting resonance from the housing and from the construction of this headphone. Unfortunately, that build quality is unavoidably going to be affecting the sound. For a £99 headphone, it's amazing that they can do such a good job with the separation of sounds, particularly when they're not in noise cancelling mode. So in a way they're a bit of a one-trick pony. I would say they're fine with rock. They're a little bit brittle sounding with classic rock, so I'd say more modern rock is better with the Kiwi ears. The M9s are way more versatile. So there you go. So I thought I'd show what competition. I mean, these are £50 less, and you feel it in every single way. But oh my goodness, I mean, I wouldn't pay I wouldn't pay £100 for this build quality. These have the build quality. Look, the pad's coming out already here. These have the build quality of something which is more like £50. M9s and the M32s by Wolf Acoustics, they have the build quality of something more around £250. Okay, so let's talk about the music that I've been enjoying listening to on the M9s and the M32s. So I've been listening to a lot of Tidal. The reason I like listening to Tidal is because of the quality of the recordings. They're good standard. You can listen to HD and FLAC, and I do listen to Spotify sometimes, but the overall quality of the music isn't quite as high. You've got a good range, but if I want to listen to very high quality music, then Tidal is my choice. And I've been listening on my MacBook Pro and on my phone. My phone here is a Nothing Phone 2, which is what I'm making this video with. I've been listening on YouTube to FLAC files as well, which I've been quite pleasantly surprised at the quality you can find on YouTube. This is a review of noise cancelling headphones. So my overall necessity wasn't to try and chase audiophile music, but what I'm trying to do is test them with a good wide variety of music that people who might buy these headphones will aim to play. Goldfrapp Felt Mountain is a good example of an album which can get quite peaky. It's got a lot of sharp sounds in there with bass impact as well. And Goldfrapp, her vocals are very forwards in the mix. It's got quite a wide soundscape in the mix, and what I found is on the M9s, these controlled the treble peaks better than on the M32s for that album. Inversely, when I played Katie Mulawa, so as an example, Call Off the Search is a good example of a classic Katie Mulawa album. The M32s, they bring the vocals forwards in a very pleasing way, and as a result the vocals are very clear, but they've got a very warm but very pleasurable intonation to them, very musical. The M9s also sound great with Katie Mulawa. As soon as some of the tracks, as soon as any of the bass notes come out in the instrumentals, then I would say the M9s can actually cope better. But when the isolated vocals are paramount, the M32s are fantastic. I listen to a bit of classic rock. I listen to the best of Aerosmith. It's called Yeah. But there's a track, I've been listening on digital files, but I've got the CDs as well. So Dream On, which is a very famous track where it's the first song where Steve Tyler was using his graveliness in his voice. So prior to that, he was a very kind of clear singer. He didn't do that, you know, I can't do his voice. You know that his quite gravelly, highly textured voice, vocals. So I found his vocals more pleasurable on the M9s, and I found the Wolf Studio M6 was good for kind of overall balance of instrumentals and vocals. Tonally, I really like the M9s for rock vocals. So another example, let me think, this is the best of Bon Jovi. Again, I've just been listening to individual tracks on Tidal, but this is an album I've been listening to as well on CD, not as much as the digital files, but Bon Jovi, he has a very laborious, kind of heavily textured voice, and his high notes can be quite harsh. And what I found when both of these headphones were plugged in just without the noise cancelling turned on and not by Bluetooth, I found the vocals just slightly less bearable. When these were Bluetooth activated, and when the noise cancelling was turned off, I found these more pleasurable than when it was turned on. However, both times with the noise cancelling turned on and off, I found there's something about the M9 that suited those vocals very well. It's something about this headphone. I'm guessing it's something to do with the shape of the pads and the venting. Something about the build of these headphones, just it suits it better. I was listening to Revolver by the Beatles. Interesting album because there's a lot of varying styles. In that album, the Beatles, they had a lot of the earlier Beatles sounds and also a lot more of the the later, more progressive, more psychedelic stuff, and heavy rock sounds as well, which was good. I've listened to Iron Maiden, and I've listened to Led Zeppelin, and more modern rock music, Nirvana, Nevermind, is an excellent album. With both of these these headphones you get a good amount of impact. Again, I think the M9s are suited slightly better to hard rock than the M32s. The M32s, there's some tracks, even hard rock, where the instrumentals take a back seat and where the vocals are more paramount, where anything vocal heavy. It's fantastic. I've been listening to quite a lot of Morshiba. If you know Morshiba, they're a very relaxing kind of, quite bass heavy. It's really kind of all bass and vocals. English kind of R&B band from the early thousands and 1990s. Some of their songs have such a dark kind of warm sound that I wouldn't recommend listening to these headphones with the noise cancelling on with those tracks, because what you've got is you've got a very kind of closed-in sounding bass heavy track already, and these headphones are just going to kind of accentuate that even more. So I'd recommend music which is slightly less heavy on the bass to start off with. I would say that the M32s, without the noise cancelling, I actually really enjoyed Morshiba with, as long as the noise cancelling wasn't on. Corinne Bailey, kind of lovely, almost like jazz singing and instrumentals, and they worked very well on both. With a very clean mix, these headphones are going to do a lot of justice too. They really do sound very good. It's just when you have tracks which are very heavy in the mix and crowded in the sounds, where you're not going to really want to listen a lot with the noise cancelling turned on. So there you go. To conclude, I've very much enjoyed listening to all of the Wolf headphones, and I really recommend them. If you like headphones which are going to last, have great build quality, good value, they have a versatile sound. If you need something which is simple to use, and if you don't like using, let's say, EQ that much and the complexities of having to download apps for headphones, then these don't have an app. They might have an app in the future, but currently they don't, and to be honest, they're fine without an app. I've tried EQing with my phone's built-in apps, and that was fine. If you want to listen to just very specific genres, then do have a think about the differences that I've mentioned with these. So that's all for today. Thank you very much, and do let me know if you buy a pair of these, what you think of them, and hopefully I'll see a lot more of Wolf Audio in the future. They're quite a small company at the moment, but you never know, they might hopefully gain in popularity. Hopefully word will get out that they're very high quality headphone company. So that's all for today. Goodbye. Okay, so this is something quite interesting. So you heard the sound that the M9 and the M32 make when they're turned on and the NC is activated and so on. They're the same. Very good. It's clear, it's concise, it does a good job. Now, these headphones, the Kiwi ears, Ardour, this is what they sound like. Now, I think it's worthy of note. So if I turn this on, listen to the voice.
Power on.
So it says power It kind of now I'm not meaning to be mean or anything, but they could have got someone who actually has better intonation. That's not to do with an accent. You can have an accent, but it's the way it's not intonated properly. So it's not a concise way of speaking. So if I turn on ANC, listen to this.
ANC off.
And this.
Transparency on. ANC on.
Okay, so as you can hear, the whole experience with the Kiwi is it's kind of below par, to be honest, if that's a phrase I can use. If I turn these off,
Power off.
so as you can hear, the whole thing, they're not very there. I mean, the build is terrible. I mean, look at that. I'm holding that, and it looks like it's falling apart. And in fact, this has come out. That's broken. Look, that's just broken. Anyway, so enough about the Kiwi ears. I'm not going to keep those headphones. They sound okay. They sound okay, but they sound okay with specific genres, and they really have got to get these build issues sorted. That is unacceptable. It shouldn't have gone to market.